Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here. Today we're going to be looking at some AI tools that have come out in the past few months that are really useful for learning languages, and we're going to be mainly talking about Japanese, but most of these tools will be useful for any language that you want to learn. So let's get right into it. One of these tools that I'm going to be talking about today is called Wisdolia. It's a free browser extension for Google Chrome, and basically it allows you to go onto any web page, any YouTube video, and even upload your own PDF documents and then generate flashcards from that content. Now, it doesn't do it in the sense that how we talk about on this channel, where you're taking native sentences and you're converting them into Anki flashcards. So what it does is it basically will try to understand the content that you're looking at and then generate questions and answer flashcards based on that content. So really this is kind of useful more so for people that are learning other subjects as opposed to language learning, because it doesn't take the native sentences in the actual content and then output it to a flashcard. What it does is it generates its own sentences, its own questions about the content, and its own answers. But I still think this is really useful for language learners, because for those of you that are in the intermediate to advanced stage, you might be able to use this to actually further increase your depth and understanding of certain topics in the language that you're learning. So say, for example, if you're someone who's learning French and you're really interested in French politics, then using this to browse a French news webpage and get questions and answers based on the content within that to make sure that you fully understand the content that you're reading can be super useful and super helpful for actually confirming that you're understanding the content. And not only that is the fact that these sentences are for the most part grammatically correct, and you can directly import them into Anki and then study them as they are. So I will put a brief disclaimer here though, that these AI systems aren't perfect. They do sometimes output incorrect grammar. We always talk about on this channel about using content from native speakers that's made for native speakers. And it's a kind of a gray line whether you should use AI stuff here, because on one hand it's not made by a native speaker, but on the other hand you could easily argue that because the AI is built on a language model and it's built from the zero upwards to learn about human language, that it is also a native, which is a very weird and obscure conversation, which we're not going to get into on this channel. But you could easily argue that that is the case. However, as I do say, the AI will sometimes make grammatical mistakes, so you do have to be wary of that. So I would only recommend Wisdolia for those who are in the intermediate to advanced stages. Those are the people that are going to make the most use out of it and find the most use out of it, because it is just a very basic tool that just generates question and answer flashcards based on whatever topic that you are looking at. Setting up Wisdolia is actually really simple. All you have to do is download the Chrome extension, hook it up to Anki, and then you can just go onto any web page, click generate flashcards, and it will start doing it. If you want a tutorial on how to do that, then you can check the link in the description down below, which will take you to my blog, which will show you how to do that step by step. But it is very simple and it shouldn't be too hard to set up. Now, obviously, as I said, it doesn't work in a way that basically takes the text and puts them into Anki cards. It questions you on the text. So it doesn't sentence mine, which is a process that we like to do here on this channel, where you take native content and you try to understand it by reading through it. And if there's a word you don't know or a phrase you don't know, you will take that sentence, you will put it into a flashcard, you will look up all the relevant information that you don't know about that sentence into a dictionary, put that information on the flashcard, and then learn the phrase or word based on the definition. It's a really cool way, really easy way of being able to learn from the content that you enjoy. And so I highly recommend you check out other videos on this channel about sentence mining. If you like Wisdolia, then I also think you should check out Migaku. It's not an AI tool, but it's on the same kind of plane as to what the tools do. Migaku takes any content and makes it easily accessible and readable for any learner of the language by generating readings, furigana. You can make it so it highlights words in all sorts of different ways based on words you know, based on words you don't know, pitch accents and all sorts, and it will pass through text on any web page that you're viewing, and it'll generate this information for you, make it easier for you to read. It'll also allow you to take any sentence within that document and easily send it to Anki. And once you've got Anki and the integration between the browser extension set up, you can do this automatically. So you can just copy any sentence and it will just send it over to Anki, and it will just put it into Anki for you, and you can study it later. which is super useful because it used to take me ages to create new cards. I'd spend like 2 to 3 hours a day making new cards, and now Migaku can just do it in a flash. Now, it's not an AI tool, but it is a really useful tool that the Migaku team has been making, and I recommend it to any language learner. Not only can you generate flashcards from just web page content, you can do it from YouTube videos, Netflix. You can copy and paste your own text into their browser extension. They have their own reader, so if you find a web page that doesn't really work with the app, then you can just take the text, copy it, and put it into their reader, and then you can use that instead. You can put your own books and text into it. It's really, really cool. Really, yeah, super useful for any language learner, so I would highly recommend checking that out. I do have an affiliate link with them, so if you want to get 1 free month, then you can click the link down in the description down below and you'll be able to get a 3 months worth of Migaku. So another great way that you can use AI to help your learning is by using ChatGPT to actually add furigana or readings for whatever languages it is that you're learning. So take, for example, Chinese or Japanese, where you have Chinese characters built into the language, and without actually knowing how to read those characters, without looking them up in a dictionary first, it might be very difficult to read for a piece of text, especially one that, you know, is meant for an older audience, one that, you know, where they assume that the older audience can already read the language in order to be able to understand the text. So what we can do is we can actually put in a prompt to ChatGPT to basically take any text that you want to input, and it will generate furigana. And this is really cool. It has, you know, a lot of other uses. This is just one example. You know, you could also ask it to summarize this German text into an easier format for me to read. And what it will do is it will basically take the text, make it so it's much easier for you to read, make it so it uses less difficult words, and you can also do that. So there's all sorts of really cool uses that you can use ChatGPT for, and you know, just come up with all these different prompts to make your reading experience much easier, because that is primarily what it's used for, is analyzing text and stuff. And this is super useful for making any, you know, difficult text or text that's just slightly out of your range because you don't know how to read all the characters in it. It makes it super accessible for any learner. So you can take literally any topic that you're interested in, copy the text into ChatGPT, ask it to generate furigana, and it will do so for you. And it is very good at conversing. It is incredibly good at it. If you haven't played around with it, go on there, have a play around with English at first, and just get a feel for how good this AI is, and just know that it is the exact same quality in your language, in English, as it is in every other language that it's trained on. And yeah, it's incredibly good at conversational language. And so in that sense, it can be very useful for helping you to learn a language, as you can use it as a conversation partner. Essentially, you can take the language that you're learning and try and talk to the chatbot in that language, and it will output that language back to you. And you can ask it to correct any mistakes you make as you do so. So you don't have to really worry about, you know, having a native speaker correct you, or have a teacher correct your work or whatever. You can just ask the chatbot to do it for you, and it'll do it very precisely. Of course, it's not perfect and it will occasionally make mistakes, but so will a human. So I still think it's a very useful tool in that respect. Having a conversational partner that you can talk to at any point in time on your phone is very useful. And to get instant feedback as well is also incredibly useful. You can get it to teach you vocabulary, grammar, all sorts of different parts of the language if you are interested in that kind of stuff. Say, for example, if you don't understand the te form in Japanese, then you can simply ask the AI to explain it to you as if you were a baby. Literally put in that prompt and it'll make it super easy for you to understand the grammar. You can do this with all sorts of different topics and subjects. Say you're learning about a certain topic in German or French or whatever, and you don't fully understand the text that the teacher has given you, or the text that you try to read. You can input that text, ask it to break it down for you, make it easier, like I said before, and it'll do that for you. And so asking it to be able to explain grammar points, vocabulary, and you can ask it to give you the etymology of a word, all sorts of stuff, and it's really, really good at doing that. It's basically a walking, talking, interactive dictionary, which I think is incredibly useful for literally every language learner that, you know, can get their hands on it. So definitely I would recommend getting ChatGPT 4 on your phone and just playing around with it and seeing what you can do. So another thing that it can do, which I've seen people talk about, is it can help you with pronunciation, and I'm not too sure whether people should really use this one, but I wanted to point it out just to sort of get my opinion on it. And essentially what it does is it'll take You can ask it to say, right, how do I say this word in French? How do I say this word in German? How do I say this word in Japanese? And it'll try and pronounce the word for you, but using sort of an English way of pronunciation to show you how you should say it. It's all right for beginners, I guess, but I wouldn't really recommend doing this too much. What I would recommend doing, obviously, like we talk about in this channel a lot, is to get a lot of listening and a lot of input in general to be able to fully understand how a word is said. And once you get enough input, you'll naturally start speaking with a semi-decent to really good pronunciation. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend using it for asking it how to pronounce certain words, but you can do that if you're interested in doing so. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the Patreon if you're interested in getting Anki decks for Japanese. If you're learning Japanese, and I have a ton of Anki decks over there, all you have to do is sign up to the $5 tier, or $1 tier has the older decks that I used to make, but the $5 tier has over 60 gigabytes worth of Anki decks. We have hundreds of shows and books on there, which you can use to import straight into Anki, get some easy to mine flashcard decks, which will help you to learn Japanese. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting everybody on the Patreon. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you to Harry and everybody else. And I'll see you guys in the next video.